I'm trying to get all the achievements in all the main Resident Evil games, and today I'll be completing the 2020 remake of Resident Evil 3. Like with the two previous games, I'll need to complete multiple playthroughs on all difficulties, tackle some challenge runs, finish the game in under 2 hours, pick up all collectibles, and earn a few easy gameplay achievements. Unlike before though, the two protagonists have separate sections in the story, so there aren't any character specific playthroughs, which actually makes this game a bit more repetitive than the others. With that being said, let's start with playthrough number 1. This run is focused on beating the game on normal difficulty while collecting everything and picking up as many missable achievements as possible. But before getting into it, I want to quickly add some context to the story. We're playing as Jill, one of the protagonists of the first game, 2 months after the events of RE1 and 1 day before the events of RE2. We start by waking up from a nightmare before answering a call from Brad, the helicopter pilot from the first game, who tells us that we need to leave ASAP, but he gets interrupted by a new tyrant variant called Nemesis that breaks through the wall. We try to escape while being hunted around the building, and we manage to make it out just as some rubble crushes it, which also unlocks our first achievement. Outside, we meet up with Brad and go towards a helicopter to escape the city, but get attacked by a horde of zombies which gets him bit and infected. So now we have to make it to the top of a parking garage on our own to be rescued. Once we get there, Nemesis destroys the helicopter and almost kills us, but we manage to drive the both of us off the roof. This also doesn't kill him though, but at the last second, the game's other protagonist, Carlos, blows him up with an RPG. He then takes us to the subway for an achievement, but before we can continue, we head outside to break our first Charlie doll for another one. While going towards his base, he tells us that he's part of the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, which obviously causes some tension because of Jill's history with the company. Since he's the only help available though, we choose to cooperate and meet his captain, Mikhail Victor, who tells us that we need to return power to the subway to evacuate some civilians. So we head out with this first objective, and in the supply room above, we craft our first item by combining some herbs for an achievement. Outside, our path forward is blocked by some fire, so to progress we'll first have to put it out by finding a fire hose. While exploring the area to find one, I collect a weapon upgrade hidden in a safe, which when used unlocks another achievement. In the nearby subway control building, we find the main control room that we'll need to operate once we restore power, as well as the fire hose we were looking for. Putting out the fire opens up a path to a garage where we meet an injured UBCS member, but before we can help him, some guy shows up and one-taps him. Turns out that he's also with Umbrella but cares more about himself than his team. Further up ahead, I pick up my first inventory upgrade for another achievement. We finally reach the substation where we're supposed to restore power, and as we enter, Jill gets a parasite implanted in her, but we get rid of it with a quick heal. After resetting all 4 breakers in the spider-infested station, we turn the power back on, also destroying the nest. On our way back to the control building, we get ambushed by Nemesis again, but thanks to some grenades, we manage to stun him for an achievement. With the power back on, we can plot a route for the subway to take, which should get the civilians out of the city. Before taking the train though, we use some gems that I've been picking up on a clock at the station for some rewards, and after using all 3, we get an inventory upgrade and an achievement. We then reunite with the UBCS team, then learn that the old guy's name is Nikolai, and also meet Tyrell. But just as we're about to head to the train, Nemesis shows up, so we leave on our own to distract him since he's apparently focused on killing any STARS members left in the city. We manage to escape for now and end up in the sewers where we find the grenade launcher and a battery that we use to open the exit door. But of course, while climbing the ladder out, we are found by Nemesis, who uses a flamethrower now and chases us through an abandoned building. Once we make it to the top, we enter our first real fight against him, but since he's got a massive fuel canister on his back, all we gotta do is shoot it a couple of times to blow it up. This obviously doesn't kill him though, and he now uses the broken flamethrower as a club, but a few more bullets put him down to end the pretty easy fight for an achievement. Back on the streets, we start to head back towards the subway, but of course Nemesis is still kicking and now chases us with a rocket launcher. After somehow surviving a point-blank explosion, we catch up to Carlos near a gas station where he blows up a fuel truck to slow it down. This buys us enough time to make it to the subway with both protagonists on good terms now. The team has to split up, with Jill and Mikhail taking the train out of the city, and Carlos and Tyrell going on a separate mission to find an Umbrella scientist. Also, Nikolai is here, which can only mean good things are to come. That was a lie. As soon as we leave, Mikhail implies that their squad got wiped because Nikolai set them up, but before this confrontation leads to anything, fucking Nemesis is back and starts to blow up the train, killing all the civilians. This allows Nikolai to leave us for dead, which leads to Mikhail blowing himself up with Nemesis, also derailing the train and knocking Jill out for an achievement. We now switch to Carlos for the first time on his mission at the Raccoon Police Department, where, before entering, we see how Branna from the second game got infected. It was because of zombified Brad. To make up for that, we kill him for an achievement. achievement. The RPD section is pretty short, only requiring us to blow up a wall leading to the star's office where we were supposed to find the scientist. No luck though, since he's in a hospital on the other side of the city on some Princess Peach shit. Before leaving though, we get a call from Jill about what happened, so we leave to go find her first, unlocking another achievement. We now switch over to see what she was doing while Carlos was at the RPD right after the train derailed. We first need to get above ground, and in the process I get an achievement for killing 2 enemies with 1 shot. Shortly after, we make it to a bridge where we see Nemesis jump into the river to put the fire out, and is also where we call Carlos, but the call gets interrupted by a newly evolved Nemesis that now walks on all 4s. In a plaza up ahead, we fight him again, and although it's still a pretty easy fight, it does require the grenade launcher to do any real damage since it's the only way to knock him down in this fight. But after dumping enough grenades into him, he goes down again, but not before getting a sneaky hit in and infecting Jill, causing her to pass out. Also Nikolai's here again. After that fight, I get an achievement before a 12-hour time skip that allows Carlos to show up and take Jill to the hospital where we should also find a scientist who can cure her. Leaving Jill in a sick room, we search the hospital for the scientist. It doesn't take long to find his office, which is locked behind voice recognition, but using a nearby voice recorder and an audio tape of the scientist, we're able to open it just to find him shot dead. On a nearby computer, we see a recording he made before being killed where he exposes Umbrella for creating the virus and the outbreak, but that he also managed to create a cure that just so happens to be in the next room over. So we give it to Jill, and while waiting for her to wake up, Tyrell shows up with some great news. The government will nuke the city in 24 hours. And to make things worse, a whole lot of zombies pull up, so we need to defend the room for about 5 minutes until we can blow up a column to block the main entrance, which ends this section for an achievement. Then Carlos leaves to get some more vaccines at the Umbrella lab before we switch back to Jill. By this point, enough time has passed that the missiles are only a few hours away, so we gotta wrap this shit up quick and leave the city. First though, we need to catch up to Carlos for the vaccines, and on my way to the Umbrella lab, I also get achievements for unlocking all locks and safes and collecting all the guns. Before going in, Tyrell catches up and tells us that the government will call off the strike if we can get the vaccines in time, adding even more pressure to get this done quickly. With this in mind, we enter the lab, but he gets insta-whooped by Nemesis, who somehow got in as well, and after escaping, I also got another achievement. Our goal here is to create the vaccine with the 2 ingredients that are spread out across the lab, and while I was looking for them, I also destroyed the final Charlie doll for another achievement. Combining the 2 and synthesizing them properly, we successfully create a new vaccine sample, but we are jumped by Nemesis once again, who we blow up for like the 3rd time to escape him. Further up ahead, we reach this massive empty room, and right on cue, he shows back up and almost knocks us down into it. While we're trying to get back up, Nikolai shows up, steals the sample, and offers to trade it for some Nemesis combat data that we'll obviously have to acquire by fighting him again. This fight is pretty similar to the one at the bridge, since he'll run around the arena before stopping so we can knock him down, except that this time we don't need the grenade launcher and we can simply shoot the correct generator to shock him before a short damage phase. Rinse and repeat a few times, and eventually Carlos will knock it out with a crane that we also used to get out, before flooding the room in acid to fully melt him, finally putting it down for an achievement. We then catch up to Nikolai, who was obviously never gonna honor the deal that he proposed since he wants to keep making money. But before any of us can shoot, who else but Nemesis breaks through the wall because a simple acid bath was never gonna actually kill him. This allows Nikolai to escape, with Carlos chasing him, leaving us to deal with this raid boss on our own. Unsurprisingly, none of our weapons do any damage, but thankfully Umbrella just so happened to have a random ass railgun in this room, which we used to great effect. After finally dealing some real damage, 3 batteries have to be reinserted, so we'll have to stun him to have enough time to do that, and he's just so kind that he grows some weak spots so that we can shoot. After breaking all the ones that he grows, we stun him, put in as many batteries as possible, and repeat until the railgun is charged back up. The first shot we fire hurts him enough to knock him down, and the second full power one we shoot directly in his mouth and is actually enough to kill him for real this time. With Nemesis finally being eliminated, we get an achievement, and while catching up to the others, I get another one for picking up the final note. At the helipad, we see that Carlos got his ass beat, then get confronted by Nikolai, who destroys the sample and reveals that he was hired to destroy Umbrella by an unknown client. Just as he's about to shoot us, Carlos gets back up and whoops him, allowing us to shoot him before taking the helicopter right as the nuke hits. Then Jill gives a monologue about human greed being the real monster or something, which ends the game and earns me an achievement for beating it on normal. Finishing the game also unlocks the points shop that allows us to buy special items and weapons with points earned by completing in-game challenges, with the infinite rocket launcher being the most important one to get for later. Being very short on points means that we'll now have to grind for some by farming kills with the AR, pistol, pistol, shotgun, and magnum. These weren't enough though, but I still had to do a no box and no heals playthrough for achievements, and they give a good amount of points, so might as well get that done now. Like in the last 2 games, these are barely a challenge, especially if played unassisted, since I auto regen to half health and no healing items in my inventory makes space management a lot easier. This game makes it even easier though, because every time I switch characters I get my health restored back to full, which happens 4 times in a playthrough, and getting rid of ammo if my inventory starts to get full barely matters since there's a ton of it in each boss room. After the hospital section, I also got an additional achievement for restoring power in under 5 minutes, which was also easy. Seeing Raccoon City get nuked again ends the playthrough for 3 more achievements actually, since I also beat the game in under 2 hours. With more than enough points now, I unlock the infinite rocket launcher, an item that makes it easier to dodge, health regen coins, extra defense coins, and 4 extra inventory slots that are all available from the first item box. These trivialized the next playthrough on hardcore difficulty since it's barely harder than normal, and the RPG does disgusting damage, one-shotting every normal enemy and melting bosses, so I'll skip to the nuke to show the achievements for the run. One was for the hardcore clear and the other was for getting an S rank, which requires a fast clear with 5 saves or less. Beating hardcore also unlocks nightmare difficulty, which makes enemies more aggressive and switches item and enemy spawns. The item switch didn't matter since I pretty much didn't need to pick up heals or ammo, and story items stayed at the same spots. The enemy switch did catch me lacking though because of a repositioned enemy that has a one-shot attack. Besides that though, Nemesis was faster than usual and the final fight had a few extra attacks I think, but it wasn't really a problem because of the shop items being that strong. One nuke later, the game ends again for one more achievement and unlocks Inferno difficulty, which is even more aggressive with no autosaves and less typewriters for manual saves. But since I need to S rank it, that wasn't that big a deal since the spots where I want to save normally still have typewriters. The entire game was still a cakewalk up until the final boss, who actually killed me a few times, mainly because of this 3-hit combo that's a guaranteed kill if the first one connects, since I'm stunned and have to tank the full thing. He also recovers very quickly, so I barely have the time to do 1 battery before he gets back up, meaning that I have to down him 3 times, all while having to deal with way more attacks than before. There's also this 6 to 7 hit combo that requires multiple dodges in a row, but once the timings were downloaded it wasn't that bad and he still went down fairly quickly. After one last nuke, I unlocked the 2 final achievements for Resident Evil 3 for beating Inferno and getting an Inferno S rank. 3 games down, 6 to go, 7 if you count the original RE4, and so far it's been a really fun series to complete, way more than Assassin's Creed, which I did last year. Even though I think that this was a weaker game than 2, it's still very enjoyable because it leans more towards action than survival horror, making the repeated playthroughs feel faster paced and less tedious despite the lack of variety. It's a bit easier, being a 4 out of 10 in my opinion, and was also faster to complete at just under 16 hours. Naturally, the next video will be for the Resident Evil 4 remake, so subscribe to not miss it and let me know if you want me to do a 2-in-1 and also complete the original from 2004. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.